Hi everyone, Derek Johnson with Tatango.com. I'm here at Invista Law, home of the TCPA Defense Force. I'm sitting here with attorney David Carter, a TCPA attorney or specialist. And one of the questions we get asked at Tatango is for text messages, even voice calls to VoIP phone numbers, is there any difference or anything that needs to be known by the brands when they want to message or phone call a VoIP phone number? And I guess first, what's a VoIP phone number? Because I don't even know.
I think that's an interesting starting point, right? Because a VoIP or voice over IP is a service that in many respects may mirror someone's traditional residential phone line, but instead of coming through a traditional copper wire or something like that, it's coming, the call is coming in on their internet service.
Okay.
And so because it's coming in on an internet service and using an IP protocol, it means that it may not actually mirror a traditional residential phone call.
Okay.
And the interesting thing about voice over IP or VoIP services is that as a digital service, they might have a number of different features or functionalities that most people don't have on their residential phone. So if you take, for example, Google Voice, which is a service that a lot of people are familiar with.
And they're VoIP.
That's a VoIP type service.
Okay.
And
most people know about that one.
Yeah, so when you have a Google Voice number, behind the scenes, you can log into the platform and you can have some options available to you, right? One of those options is to simultaneously ring multiple phones. And so if you are one of those people that still has a residential home phone, and you've got an office number and you've got your cell phone, but you maybe travel a lot, well, you might set up your Google Voice account to call all three of those phones at one time.
Makes sense, or sequentially or something.
Or something, right? You could do it, in a number of different ways.
Yep.
And then there are other services that are coming out that, it might be really look like a residential phone line, but also equips you to receive text messages.
Okay, in the home.
In the home,
okay.
Right? And so because it's a digital service, there's many different companies are treating or doing different things with the VoIP services and giving consumers different features.
Okay.
And as a result of that, it raises some pretty interesting questions that a lot of people have not really grappled with or dealt with, and that frankly, the FCC probably hasn't fully appreciated or looked at on these issues around application of the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, the TCPA, to these VoIP services.
Okay, because the TCPA originally started with phone calls, faxes, pagers.
1991, right? So you're talking about pretty limited technology. Was what you could do with technology in 1991 is a lot different than what you can do in 2017.
And it eventually included text messages.
Correct.
And now that we have these things called VoIP, which is like Google Voice type things, you're saying so that's like a thing that hasn't been really addressed yet?
It has not been fully addressed,
okay.
Right? Because I think before, up to this point in time, right, landlines, home phones operated in a certain fashion. Wireless operated in a certain fashion. With VoIP, they could look like any number of those things.
Okay, so it almost looks like all the things that almost even a fax machine. I bet you could
probably
stuff
I'm sure,
VoIP.
yeah,
like images or documents. So essentially, VoIP could or can include all those things. So that's where all this confusion may be coming from.
Correct.
Okay.
And so if you're sending a text message, right, to a telephone number that's associated with a VoIP service, you don't really know if that's going to end up on their mobile device, if it's going to end up on their computer, if it's going to end up somewhere else. If you're calling the number, same thing. You don't really know just by looking at the phone number exactly what's going to happen,
what it is
on the other end of that call, right?
Okay.
And so as a result of that, from our perspective as attorneys looking at and trying to help companies figure out how to avoid litigation, how to be safe with regard to VoIP services, we have seen a number of cases recently where the courts have been asked to address this question.
Okay.
And again, it's happening. From our perspective, it's happened first at the courts. The FCC hasn't really addressed it. And those courts certainly struggle. So you see some courts reaching different conclusions. But what we've seen in those cases is that there are at least some VoIP services where when the consumer picks up the phone and they answer a call, for example, they incur a charge for that just like they would on a wireless phone, right?
Okay.
Where
your credits go down on Google Voice or something.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So the incoming call charges them or causes them to have some charge, right? And that's actually the language that is in the same section of the TCPA as wireless phone calls.
Okay.
And so from our viewpoint, the heightened consent requirements to send text messages to mobile phone numbers where you have to have people affirmatively opt in and consent to receive those messages, those heightened consent requirements, therefore, we believe are very likely to be applicable to VoIP services.
Okay.
And again, it's an area where it's still continuing to evolve. But what we tell clients is to be on the safe side of things. If you're going to call or text to a VoIP telephone number, you should assume that it's a really good possibility that somewhere down the road the court would conclude that needed to meet the heightened consent requirements to get those double opt-ins if they're going to do text messaging, to get written consent in some manner for phone calls to those numbers or to auto-dial calls to those.
So it's not an exemption, it's not something that is, you essentially have to follow the same rules that you have been following for the last few years, under the Telephone Consumer Protection Act. Either it's a regular phone call or phone number, whether it's home or cell, or now VoIP, it's all included. You don't get some kind of pass for VoIP phone numbers.
That's right. You definitely don't get a pass. And I guess what I would say is residential lines don't have quite as heightened
mobile phones.
As mobile phones.
Okay.
So when you're looking at VoIP and you're debating, do I treat VoIP like a home phone, like a residential line, or do I treat it like a mobile phone? If you're not familiar with the TCPA and its regulations, you might conclude, it's like a home phone. And our message to people is not really. That you don't know exactly what's going to happen on the other end of that call. You don't know what's going to happen to if it's going to simultaneously ring their cell phone number.
Or all of them.
Or all of them,
yeah. Okay.
So therefore, you have to treat it as if it's a mobile phone number.
Okay.
And put it in that camp, put it in that bucket, because otherwise you may very likely find that that it did ring all the phone numbers and it did all these things that you weren't aware of.
Okay.
And that therefore treating it as if it was a residential line was actually not the right decision.
So residential line, it's less strict under the TCPA, just as a general kind of overview. Messaging or calling a mobile phone is more strict. There's more things that are needed to get an opt-in.
To get the consent, right.
And the issue is that VoIP over here, it really hasn't been decided which it qualifies as, but from an attorney's perspective, always treat a VoIP line unless something comes out differently saying that, which is a good tip to always be tracking what the TCPA is doing because it's changing all the time, right?
Yep.
So right now, always say that or always treat a VoIP line as essentially a mobile line.
It's the safest course of action right now. Again, the law often lags the technology, right?
Yeah.
That's a very common phenomenon when you're working with telecommunications issues. And so the law is gray in this space. And not to say that there aren't good arguments on the other side of this issue and that you wouldn't have some good defenses if you did it a different way. But if you have the choice, right? If you can make a conscious choice before the calls are actually sent or the text messages are sent, then our recommendation is go ahead and get the higher levels of consent.
Okay.
That's going to be sufficient. There's no debate about that.
There's no third consent level or something at this point.
At this point, exactly. Okay. So go ahead and get the higher levels of consent. Take the safer course of action. Hopefully that will save you some money down the road. You'll stay out of the litigation. You won't have to hire lawyers to defend
yourself that it was a landline, not a mobile phone line.
You don't want to be the test case. That's our point.
Because it's expensive, right?
It is. Litigation's expensive, and so if there's some decisions you can make on the front end, if you can work with your technology provider, you can work with your legal team, and make some of these decisions. Be aware of the issue now.
Yeah.
Take the safer course of action. Save yourself some money down the road.
Okay. Wow, I always learn things with you. Obviously, I did not know that about VoIP phone numbers. Again, my name is Derek Johnson with Tatango.com. I'm here at Innovista Law, the home of the TCPA Defense Force, with TCPA attorney David Carter. Thanks for watching our video today. If you like this video, be sure to give us a thumbs up on YouTube. If you want to see more of these types of videos, be sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have comments or questions, please leave a comment or question in the comment section below.